Welcome to Patriots Anonymous, where the women of The View and leftists throughout America are ready to call you weird. That's right, you heard me. Their new term of endearment for people like you and me is weird. That sounds weird. I'm your host, Bryan Rudnick, in the Rally for the Republic headquarters. By the time you listen to this episode, Kamala may have just finished doing the jig in Atlanta. Or she may have made the decision to select Tim Walz or Pete Buttigieg. And unlike the women of The View, I'm inviting the childless cat ladies to listen and learn. Because today, we're going to discuss the race for the White House, how the left is trying to turn America into Venezuela. I'm probably not going to bother with discussing how the Senate passed the Kids Online Safety Act, because more government in your life to protect your kids by the people who can't protect the country sounds kind of weird. And I'll be back to you in a moment.
This is a battle cry for the American way of life and a relentless pursuit of truth and justice. It comes from a voice with unmatched experience and unyielding resolve. Join us as we dissect current events and tip the scales in your favor. This is Rally for the Republic with your host, Bryan Rudnick.
Bryan Rudnick here in the Rally for the Republic headquarters. It's nearly 4:45 in the afternoon, and you're clearly not in the national security briefing with Joe Biden. Yes, you heard me correctly. This man is getting a briefing at the end of the day, only hours from his bedtime, unlike other people who served in the White House. Those people used to get their briefings at 7, 8, 9 a.m. like a normal president would. This is a man who holds the title President of the United States, and he doesn't get a national security briefing until happy hour. And yet, we're worried about a U.S. Senator, J.D. Vance, who calls people names? Really? Is that what really matters? I don't think so. We've got a woman running around trying to be president. Her whole agenda is predicated on killing babies in the womb. You heard me. This is a woman who is attempting to kill babies in the womb and talk to you about living in one of those states that has a quote-unquote Trump abortion ban. That supposedly, in the polling she took, even though Gallup, by the way, says maybe 2% of Americans care, this is what she claims is the top issue. And she wants all her friends to rally around her and claim that J.D. Vance is weird. She's not worried about lowering your interest rate. She's not worried about lower food prices or gas. She's not worried about ensuring you have a better health insurance plan or anything that she could do to keep your family safe. No, she wants you to kill babies in the womb like Hamas and Hezbollah. She wants you to have a license to do it, and they're so out of touch. They're so woke. It's so ridiculous. Okay? And how do you know? Because instead of like a J.D. Pritzker, man of success, a Tim Walz, she's now leaning towards a first homosexual transvestite from Transylvania to be the vice president of the United States. Yeah, I'm talking about Pete Buttigieg. Just gets weirder and weirder. So what if he's a patriot who served in our military? And to prove how divisive Kamala is, she had a call last night with white guys for Kamala. Why? Because she wants to point out everything that's different about America and to drive a wedge between us. She and her leftist gal pals, at least the ones who haven't quit on her yet, because, you know, she's got that high rate of people who can't stand working for her. They just want to divide America. She's not a unifier. The media is going to lie to us. They're going to try to tell us she's a unifier. They're going to try to get you to believe all these great, glorious, wonderful things to give her the media hype. Just like they try to tell you the Olympics was great until you found out that they allow boxers who previously failed gender testing to be called women on their passports. And of course, they're going to let them compete in women's sports. So we already know this Olympics is now going down in history as the most woke Olympics. It's like Kamala Harris and her friends orchestrated it. They're attacking Christians. They're attacking sanity. They're attacking gender. They are attacking feces in the rivers there in Paris. Who knows? But they're not doing anything to have a wholesome gain that we could be proud of for our kids to explain how great and glorious and wonderful the Olympics are. And it just fits in perfectly with the summer we're having. White guys for Kamala. That's after they had black guys, yellow guys, brown guys, orange guys, you name it. That's the way they're going. And there's nothing good about this woman. Forget the staff issues. Forget things we went over last week. And you better get that big notepad ready that I told you to have when I'm here broadcasting to you. Because this is a woman who wants to bastardize the Supreme Court. She immediately endorsed Joe Biden's plan yesterday. Okay, remember that guy? He's not capable for running to be president. Somehow he's supposedly serving as our first artificial intelligence president. And we're supposed to believe that the dribble that came out of his mouth to reform the Supreme Court. Because here's a guy, a criminal, right? We all know Joe is the head of a mafia family. And yet he's going to tell you we need more ethics codes and rules. And we got to put the Supreme Court justices in their place. And well, he's getting money out the back door from China and Ukraine and who knows where. And when you can't beat him, instead of joining him, Joe goes, let's expand, get a few more seats in there. We'll throw my people on board. Kamala will take care of it. We'll get even crazier people than Ketanji Brown Jackson. And we'll put more progressives on the court to screw up this country. Yeah, that's what they want to do. Because when you don't have your own ideas and you want to end private insurance in America, to have government-run health insurance so you can treat us more and more like we're Venezuela, Canada, or some other third world banana republic. To add to that mix, Kamala, and this is serious, these are her positions, she wants to let incarcerated felons vote. The guys that she claimed, like Joe Biden claimed that they were predators. Well, she put a lot of them away for stupid little things, but she feels bad. So now she's going to let them vote because voting apparently is not a privilege anymore in her eyes. That's why they're going to steal the election. They're studying Venezuela. They're going to try to make it look just like Venezuela. This woman is so evil. This is what you really got to know. Okay, think about this logical. I'm sure if you're listening to me, you're a very intelligent, logical person, or else you wouldn't be here listening to this great show and what I have to say and what I'm trying to point out to help you, to help your friends and family, so we can rally together and save this republic. Google and other Silicon Valley companies, they know Kamala. They know her from when she was there in California. They supposedly like her. So they're trying to help her. They want to make sure she gets elected. Let's say you, the everyday American, you want to learn about this person who's running. You didn't pay attention to her because nobody ever really pays attention to who the vice president of the United States is. Remember, Jay Leno used to have the man on the street interviews. Nobody knew. So now you hear about this woman, Kamala Harris, weird name, weird lady, weird face, weird cackle, and she's running to be president of the United States. And you want to know about her. So you go to Google, you go on Facebook, you're looking things up. Couple things you're going to notice, okay? They don't want you to know she's the border czar. They've sanitized it. They're filtering. They're censoring. They also don't want you to be sympathetic to Donald Trump, that he was the victim of an assassination attempt. So they're starting to get rid of the pictures of Donald Trump and stories about the assassination. And I can tell you firsthand experience that some of my team trying to put ads up related to that on Facebook, on Google for candidates we're working for currently, they've actually given us a hard time about putting those images up. And it's not just coming from me. Breitbart, other conservative media sources have been writing about this for the last couple of days. Nobody wants you to know that Kamala's a failure. But let's face it, she's a failure. She was the border czar. She claimed she was going to get to the root of the problem, and yet the problem got worse. So what do you call that? That's not a success. In private enterprise, we don't call that a success. In government, when you spent your life in government like her, maybe you think that's a success. But here in the private sector, in the real world, when you don't solve a problem, you are the problem. Yeah, that's a failure. So she's such a failure that these private sector companies are censoring the results that you might look for on the internet. So you don't hear the facts. That is the truth. And she's doing all she can. I mean, she's coming up with ideas left and right. She has been chomping at the bit for years to tell you how she can deconstruct and destroy America. And you could be assured AOC is getting jealous every step of the way, because who had better ideas and better energy for screwing up our country? And then here, boom, here's Kamala. And she's out there with every crazy whack job idea. So bad that Governor Roy Cooper of North Carolina, okay, he was on the short list to be considered. He was their champion. Heck, he was even on the white guys for Kamala call, by the way. Okay, as were a bunch of the guys, the white guys she's thinking about to be on that short list. And he's bowed out. He's done. He's over. He's like, you know what? I think they need me still in North Carolina. I got to protect them from Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, who might become governor. True story. This was in the media today. Okay. Governor Roy Cooper, North Carolina, bowed out of consideration. He knows she's that wacky. He's like, I'm out of here. He can give whatever other story he wants. Generally, people don't say no to that offer. He said no early. He wanted it known early that he bowed out. Yeah, that's why, you got, just to give you an idea of how wacky this is and where this is all going, Kamala got endorsed by Mr. Climate Change himself, Al Gore. Okay? Mr. Climate Change. Remember Al Gore? He was the man who could have been president, but, he isn't, thankfully. And he wasn't, thankfully. And he said, as a prosecutor, Kamala Harris took on big oil companies and won. As vice president, she cast the tie-breaking vote to pass the most significant investment in climate solutions in history, the Inflation Reduction Act. That's the kind of climate champion we need in the White House, Mr. Gore said in a written statement released by the Harris campaign Sunday. With so much at stake in this year's election, from strengthening democracy in the U.S. and abroad, to expanding opportunities for the American people, to accelerating climate action, I'm proud to endorse Kamala Harris for president, Mr. Gore noted. Okay, that was followed up with the League of Conservation Voters Action Fund, the Sierra Club, Clean Energy for America Action, and every leftist group who thinks that you don't have a right to breathe the way you want. So that should tell you everything you need to know when lefties like Al Gore and the climate change, AOC Friends of Climate Change come to the rescue to endorse. Come early, they're coming often, and they're letting it be known. No better champion taking on the oil companies. That means your gas prices will go up under Kamala Harris. You can count on it. That means your heating oil price will go up. That means life will get more expensive. Production in America will get more expensive. There'll be a whole rippling effect of that fun. So now we get beyond what's going on in the race to be the next vice president nominee. To be able to call J.D. Vance weird could be Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona. He probably should be removed from the list, but that's a Democrat nomination, not a Republican one. And why do I make that distinction? Because this is a man who was caught doing business with a Chinese company with strong ties to the Chinese Communist Party to build none other than spy balloons. You remember the spy balloons that were coming all over this great nation last year? Joe Biden didn't want to shoot them down, didn't know what they were. Just let them traverse throughout our airspace. So he was a part of a Tucson-based company called Worldview in 2012 that had a vision for space tourism using stratospheric balloons. Remember that? Stratospheric balloons. Is that sounding familiar? The balloons that were flying all over America last year that Joe Biden wanted to do nothing about. And here we find out who's the person possibly responsible. Senator Mark Kelly. They thought he's going to be a hero. He's going to come in. He's going to counter what's going on. And yet, what do you know? He's hanging out with the Chinese. This gets more and more exciting as we go down the list of who could have been vice president or who might become vice president, or at least a nominee for vice president, because God willing, they don't become vice president. And that's why you've got to make sure to take notes and educate your friends and family. We got spy balloons. We got a senator supporting them. And while we're talking about Arizona, today is primary day there. You got U.S. Senate race Kari Lake versus the great American Sheriff Mark Lamb. I highly suggest you check out some of his Instagram posts. Really doing a great job. He doesn't mess around. And you've got a bunch of congressional seats up for grabs. One of the interesting things that we'll be debating and pontificating about throughout the week is, after we get a chance to dissect and digest the outcomes of this election, is how much does the Trump endorsement really matter for down ballot candidates? That's going to come out here. And while we take a break for just a moment to digest White Dudes for Kamala, I'll be back to you.
You are listening to Rally for the Republic with your host, Bryan Rudnick.
Bryan Rudnick, Rally for the Republic, here in the headquarters, not on a stratospheric balloon. And I want to get down to the nitty gritty on White Dudes for Kamala, because nobody's invited me to that. They didn't invite me to the Brown Dudes. They didn't invite me to the Yellow Dude Zoom call. They didn't invite me to any of these Kamala Zoom calls. Thankfully, I would have, of course, declined. This is what you got to understand. These people are so far from reality that they are now referring to Kamala as a cop. Okay? She's a cop like I'm a Calvin Klein underwear model. And if you don't know what I look like, I assure you, I never was and I never will be a Calvin Klein underwear model. But Kamala is a cop. The woman who fought to defund the police, the woman who funded that Minnesota bail fund to get BLM members out. Now she's going to be a cop. You were a lawyer and a prosecutor. I don't recall hearing that she went to the police academy, unless it was the movie Police Academy. But the lies are piling up because that's what the left wants to do. Remember, she's so bad they got to sanitize her record on Google. And last week it came out that GovTrack, they took the lead in erasing references to her as the most liberal senators in 2000, or one of the most liberal senators in 2019. And then, of course, there's that 60 Minutes interview, which is just like full of opposition research for the Republican Party. You should go look for it. It's on the Republican, I think the RNC research tweets. They've got that pin there. Highly encourage you to see that, because this is a woman who they're going to just do whatever it takes to cover up the facts. And then they're going to lie about Trump, and their friends in the media are going to carry it forward like they've done all these years since he started running in 2015, and they've piled it on. And then it's taken like 6 years to uncover and expose the lies. But that's what they're going to do because it's an effective strategy. It's been working. Okay, it truly has been working, and she's got this bump in the media going on, and they're sanitizing her record while you're going to look for it. Okay, and what's interesting, she's going to put a ticket together, potentially, of her and Mayor Pete Buttigieg, who's now Secretary Pete Buttigieg, remember, the transportation secretary. So we're going to have a ticket of the failed border czar with the failed transportation secretary, the man who couldn't hold the airlines accountable for running on time or keeping their doors attached to the planes. That's what we're going to have. Okay. While he takes his paternity leave so he and his husband can raise a child. Clearly that's not going to look, quote unquote, weird to America. But hey, here's some notes for you for the notepad, courtesy of the Washington Examiner. Harris may have walked back previous support for Bernie Sanders' standalone Medicare for All Act, which would have nationalized about a fifth of the economy to the tune of $32.6 trillion over a decade in 2019 dollars. That was a Congressional Budget Office estimate. However, she was an original co-sponsor of the bill in 2017, and then she later in 2019 became one of the original Senate co-sponsors for the Green New Deal. So you can't make that up. That's her record, congressional record. Okay, Green New Deal. It would have nationalized the entire energy industry, 8% of the U.S. economy, provisions for federal jobs guarantee, and quote-unquote universal health care programs. And she was going to ban all combustion-based power generation, nuclear, biomass energy, large-scale hydro, and waste-to-energy technologies. She separately, as we discussed last week, endorsed a ban on fracking for natural gas. Okay, this all comes out of the congressional record. I believe it's congress.gov. You can go there. You can look up these records. And here's more to understand about her record for your notepad. Remember, she is worried about you living in the Trump abortion ban state, and she wants to be known as the person who is going to legalize abortions up to the point of birth. So she wants that license to kill babies in the womb like Hamas and Hezbollah. She has voted against bills that would require doctors to provide medical care to a fetus that survived a failed late-term abortion attempt. She has sought to repeal the Hyde Amendment. That basically is an amendment that prevents the U.S. government from funding, with your taxpayer dollars, abortions. She wants to repeal it. So it's one thing to be a person who says, well, a woman needs health care, and there might be occasions like a rape, incest, life of the mother, where an abortion procedure may be necessary in some people's opinions. But now she wants to go a step further and make you pay for it. As the Attorney General of California, when people were exposing what Planned Parenthood was doing with their money and performing abortions and other cruel and criminal activity, she went after the people who exposed Planned Parenthood to shut them down. But now let's get to the even juicier stuff, okay? Because I've promised you, I'm coming here to broadcast to give you stuff to fill up that notepad to help educate your friends, family, loved ones, and fellow patriots. How are you going to do that? You're going to tell them about Reverend Amos Brown, her longtime pastor. You may recall I mentioned him the other day. Okay? Reverend Brown was a guest to the 2021 inauguration. So we're not going to be backpedaling on the love and support with, from, and towards Reverend Brown. So much so that Kamala's on the record saying he's been on the journey with me every step of the way. That's a quote. Okay? Quote, on this journey with me every step of the way, end quote. And as I predicted last week, there's going to be a Jeremiah Wright incident. And they've come out with it. Good old Reverend Amos Brown, San Francisco's NAACP leader of the Third Baptist Church of San Francisco, apparently attacked the United States just days after 9/11 during a memorial service with the quote that has been abridged from originally the Free Beacon. Fox News reported it also. America, America, what did you do either intentionally or unintentionally in the world order in Central America and Africa where bombs are still blasting? And he goes on. And this is a man who Kamala, just so we're clear, this is not like Barack Obama, who could point to distancing himself from Jeremiah Wright for a while when he was running for president and so forth. No, Kamala just went to him the other day when Joe Biden dropped out and she was deciding to run for president. She literally went to this man and asked him to pray for her. Okay? This woman is so wayward, so wicked, so evil, that even the New York Times has just published a story. And the title of that story is Why the Kamala Harris of 4 years ago Could Haunt Her in 2024. When the liberal gray lady starts pointing things like that out, there's smoke. And you know there's going to be fire. Because this is a woman and her posse who are so woke. Remember, that's the posse who sticks around, not the posse who left, because she really can't keep people. That they're having white dudes for Kamala. So let's go over what was white dudes for Kamala. You may have heard about it in social media on the news. You've heard me now comment about it. So let's get down to the nitty gritty with the last few minutes I have in the show today. Okay. This was a Zoom call. They've been having Zoom calls as a means to rally. The left learned how to do this in 2020. They're expanding upon it. And immediately they thought this was a great way to organize and fundraise for Kamala. And yes, they did the women, and they did the women with the mustaches calls, and they did the women who can't get a men call. And that's probably why JD Vance is talking about, crazy cat ladies and stuff like that. And then they decided, well, clearly Kamala's a racist, so let's also do white dudes for Kamala. And just to show how uninclusive, to use a word used by the left, it was not inclusive because it was run by the national director of the Working Families Party, Maurice Mitchell, who joked when he joined the call about being a black man. Okay, you might say that's not the biggest thing, whatever. Okay, let's go. Not shocking you just yet. Jeff Bridges, the dude, Big Lebowski, loved the movie. And that, as you may recall, the guy wasn't inebriated the entire movie. Nothing made sense. And sure enough, neither did his participation in the white dudes for Kamala. And he was joined by other Hollywood elites like Josh Gad and the guy who played in The West Wing, who likes to insert himself in things. And none other than the guy in D.C. running for U.S. Senate in California, who has no alpha male genes whatsoever, pencil neck Adam Schiff. So these are the supposed dudes that were on the call there to motivate other dudes to support Kamala, who is like the kind of woman that would turn most guys off unless she was performing various activities, which we don't need to belabor. And on this call, this is coming from the transcript of this Zoom call, where they were praising the fact that they could have, and Pete Buttigieg, by the way, and some of the other people in the running to be her vice presidential nominee were on the call also praising and kissing ass. And all of them together, including the actors, are talking about how great it is we're going to have a woman president championing abortion rights. And somehow, you ready for this? Sit down. Abortion rights make men more free. I'm not kidding. I had to read that multiple times. I could not believe that some supposed man who may not have gone through a transition is talking about how abortion rights makes men free. Haven't figured that out yet. Somebody is going to have to break that down to me. And it gets better. How important it is she cares for the environment. All of this leads to taking care of our children. So All of it. I had to reread this. I really did. I'm like reading this. I see these words on screen. I'm like, come on, did these people really say that? America's hurting. Interest rates are up for debate tomorrow by the Federal Reserve. America can't afford milk, juice, gas, bread, food, healthcare, anything we need. And if you live in Florida, you can't even afford your home insurance. But somehow it's great. We're going to have a woman who champions abortions and the environment, and all of this leads to taking care of our children. And somehow taking care of children that we're killing in the womb is tantamount to taking care of other children. As you can see, this is very perplexing for me. I still haven't wrapped my head around that. And I'm wondering, how do they decide? It's very, very Orwellian, right? It's like some animals on the farm are more equal. Don't know which children we're taking care of and how this all adds up, or how it's anywhere near a priority for the American people. But this is the craziest things we could ever imagine. Even the Clintons knew better. It's the economy, stupid. But this tells you everything you need to know about these people. This is the messaging coming out of the Kamala camp. Okay? We're going to get all the most radical politicians, all the most radical Hollywood elites and celebrities, and we're going to stick them on a Zoom call, and we're going to try to indoctrinate you like you're a child in a CRT program, like you're a child being told to rip down statues and be ashamed that you're white. That's practically what they're doing with these calls that are based on racial divide. And then telling you how it's all great that we get to kill babies, but it's taking care of the children. Is that because we need population control like it's China or Venezuela? I mean, is that really where we're heading? But these are the dire straits we're in, and why you and your friends have to get off the couch. You've got to remain engaged. Do not let the hype, do not let all the media circus surrounding Kamala get you to feel disappointed or dissuade. And just because J.D. Vance may or may not have made a mistake in some of his language, because apparently the media is already writing articles, he's a mean guy, he's called people names, this, that, and whatever. So all of a sudden, using his First Amendment rights to free speech is a problem. Before he was a Republican, before he was Donald Trump's running mate, they loved his use of the First Amendment. Now he has an opinion, they don't like it. Well, guess what? Obviously, somebody didn't like the words coming out of Kamala's mouth either, and that's why they've stopped working for her. Okay? And they didn't like words coming out of Joe Biden's mouth. We've heard about that. And there ain't nobody on the left who's perfect, and we're not even going to get into the ladies on The View who are trying to use the term weird to designate what's going on. But these dangerous people have to be stopped. And another note, I really hope that those of you listening to this program or people you know are not in what Axios is now reporting, are part of the people getting divorced over politics, because there is a phenomenon in America, especially apparently in DC, of people getting divorced as a result of ideological polarization. New fancy terms. Don't know why anybody should care. Life happens. Life doesn't happen. But we have a country that is in dire straits and it needs to be saved, which is why I want to remind you that I appreciate those of you who are listening and that you realize this program, Rally for the Republic, is about America for the Americans. It's not about crazy cat ladies, and it's definitely not about the people or for the people who will appear on the next White Dudes for Kamala Zoom. Because if you appear on any of those Zooms, you should not be listening to this program. Because this is a program, Rally for the Republic, for the people who love mom and apple pie, the people who cling to their guns and religion, the people who wish Kamala would just disappear off the stage, exit stage left, do whatever it takes to not have us have to listen to her cackle or see that grin again. Because we know every time she grins, somebody's getting screwed over. You listening to this program need to be part of the Americans who are saying no more. You need to be part of the Americans who are rallying for the Republic and trying to take back our country. You need to remember that there are patriots running for office today in Arizona who need your support. And on August 6th, you can help donate or vote or do something to keep Cori Bush from getting reelected. Cori Bush, the member of the squad in Minnesota, you can help to keep her from being reelected. You can boot Bush from the ballot And that's what I need you to do. And you need to tell your friends, family, and anybody you might know in Minnesota to do what it takes to boot Bush like we booted Bowman. Thank you for listening to Rally for the Republic. I'm your host, Bryan Rudnick. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the fact that you're here today, listening and sharing. Engage with us, feedback at rallyfortherepublic.com. Share and like us. Most importantly, I ask you to continue to stand shoulder to shoulder with us in the fight to save this great nation. Thank you. Thank you for your time, and God bless America.
Thank you for joining us on Rally for the Republic, where we are fighting for America's future. Visit 1776coalition.com. Rally for the Republic podcast is available on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and Google Podcasts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and download. Join Bryan Rudnick next time as we continue to fight for the American way of life and challenge the hypocrisy. This is Rally for the Republic.